Hi everyone and welcome back to my Let's Play of Star Trek Online. This is episode 2 and it's going to be one of the first daily grind style videos. What we'll be doing in this episode is we'll be doing the Romulan Reputation grind that I pretty much do daily, or if I have something that I want to craft. At the moment I really don't, because I'm tier 5 Romulan, and so therefore not really a huge amount that I want to be crafting. Really I'd much rather prefer Borg stuff, but getting the marks can't ever really hurt. Anyway, here we are in the first mission. I decided to skip ahead and skip all the travelling. You guys don't really need to see that. We're in the Karaya system, and there are Romulans fighting Romulans, which isn't really the way forward. But what's happened is that the Romulans have pretty much separated themselves from the Tal Shiar in the wake of the Hobus supernova. They consider the Tal Shiar a remnant of the past that they're going to have to get rid of if they have any hope at all with uniting with the Federation and the Klingons, who they need right now, considering they don't really have a home world and the Empire's in chaos. So, as you can see, this is the first time you'll have seen the Sathanas in combat. Nice red lasers going on. Well, not lasers, anti-proton beams, but you kind of get the drift, I'm pretty sure. One of my subscribers, KTH77, has said that he's had an awful lot of problems with the Romulans, and I can certainly sympathise with that. When you first encounter the Romulans, certainly in the storyline, they have some very nasty abilities that if you're not prepared for them, they can really do a number on you. You'll see the first instance in this LP of me being set on fire there. I guarantee you that that won't be the last time I'm set on fire in this LP, and it's why Hazard Emitters is so good. But as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm cycling through auxiliary power to batteries to get my stuff on cooldown. You'll notice I'm not playing optimally by any stretch of the imagination. Number one, I'm not hitting auxiliary power to battery all the time when I should. You can see there's one available there. Secondly, I'm not using keybinds or anything like that. But as you can see there, it reduced the cooldown on the bridge officer abilities, and that's generally what the build is about. I think if I had this keybinded and everything, I'd be doing an awful lot better, and I'd feel an awful lot happier going into sort of elite STFs and things like that, which I'm not too certain I'm prepared for at the moment. Continuing to just beam away here on this Mogai. The Mogai Escort is the warbird that was seen in Star Trek Nemesis. It's a pretty powerful ship overall, does quite a lot of damage, has cannon weaponry which can really do a number on your shields and you, to tell you the truth. Anything with cannons is always a threat. Beam weapons, the computer tends not to use beam weapons as well as it could do, but cannon weapons, if you let a ship with cannons get a lock onto you, it can really hurt you badly. Generally going toe to toe with them isn't a great idea. Anyway, we have cleaned up this system and only one thing remains, and that is to head over to the satellite, which is marked on the minimap, and we're going to play a little mini game here which is going to allow us to get some Romulan radiation scan reports. Now, what you do with these is when you get 300 of them, you can turn them into the radiation scientist on Romulus, and she'll give you 30 Romulan marks. So if you were trying to be optimal with the reputation system using this mission, you'd do it during the reputation event, and if you did that, you would probably get somewhere in the region of, you get 85 for the missions that you do, the radiation scan and the daily patrol, and you'd get 30 every 2 runs about, with about 30 marks every 2 runs. So I'd say you'd probably be looking somewhere in the region of 100 marks per day just for running this. But the thing is, to me, there's not really a huge amount in the Romulan reputation system that I want to craft after I've got the the, uh, the, 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 So I might stop grinding Romulan points at some point and just put that into other points, but I felt like no Let's Play is going to be complete without showing how to get Romulan marks, really. There are a couple of STFs as well which will allow you to get marks. Anyway, cutting directly to the next mission here in Beta Thorador. It's pretty much the same mission as the last mission, except this time we're up against renegade Klingons, who have basically gone against the will of the High Council and have said, no, we don't like you to the Romulans. And my projectile officer there has just triggered, allowing me to fire more torpedoes, and that Natevar warship is hurt, on fire, and just about to die. So yeah, you can see the major advantages in using a projectile officer there. You can just fill the screen with plasma torpedoes. And one of the great advantages of the hyperplasma torpedo is that despite the fact it's slow, if it's not shot down, it just sits in space literally like a mine. So if a ship from your enemy comes into play, or into its range, it will just simply relock onto that and head towards it. So you never really waste a plasma torpedo unless it's shot down. I've just set myself on fire there by sending my heavy plasma torpedoes in and exploding them a little bit too close to me. You'll notice what I'm doing here, or at least the way I'm flying the ship, is doing what's called broadsiding. When you're a beamboat, specifically a beamboat cruiser, what you want to do is present your side to your enemy, because that's how you direct most of your weapons energy fire towards your opponent. And in that case it means that you can pretty much fire all your weapons at once, which makes you be able to throw out a lot of damage, especially when you beam array fire at will. The concept's fairly similar on an escort, where a lot of escorts use cannons firing forward and then they use 360-degree turrets on the rear. So what happens is there that you get, as long as you're facing your opponent, you get maximum damage forward, and really escorts are very much sort of forward-thinking ships, whereas cruisers tend to be a little bit more in the realm of staying alive and broadsiding things. I'm just using reverse shield polarity here. You'll notice that my shields are completely unharmed at this point. They recharge off of my enemy firing energy shots at me, which is one of the most great abilities, to tell you the truth. I mean, I just call it a bubble, same as what a paladin would use, I suppose, in World of Warcraft. It literally is a bubble. Continuing to broadside these birds of prey. Not really too much of a problem here, and that's the end of them as well. You'll notice that my build is a little bit tanky, but that's mainly due to the Borg 2 set that I have on. The deflector and the engines, that just gives you a big boost to your hull regeneration, and it means that you can get a hull instant heal as well, which is, you know, it's a big help to you if you want to be tanky. So we're now in the Beta LAN Cal system, I believe, and we are now going to have our first contact with Tholians. Now, Tholians can be a little bit dangerous. They have a lot of sort of system disabling style attacks, and you have to be a little bit wary. What we have to do in this system is that we have to pick up all the artifacts, which sadly are currently being guarded by Tholians. So we'll have to do something about that. However, I'm going to wait until I'm almost on top of this orb weaver to begin to fire. And there's a reason for that, and yep, there you go. The orb weaver has just surrounded me in a Tholian web, and I wanted to have beam array fire at will up so that I could destroy the web nodes. If you're caught in that web and you don't have beam array fire at will, or you can't shoot yourself out of it, what happens is the web, you're held in the web, which the Tholians, I believe, can shoot through, and then the web will collapse and it will deal damage to you when it collapses. Anyway, we took out that Tholian mesh weaver, and we will, yep, there we go. We are going to beam up this relic, and you just have to match what he says. It's really a pretty pathetic minigame, to tell you the truth. I just had to cut out the next fight, which is against another Mesh Weaver. That's mainly due to the fact that my system just started really slowing down. Sorry, it's an Orb Weaver I was taking on, not a Mesh Weaver. These are Mesh Weavers. These are Tholian sort of fighters. Very, you know, they don't have much in the way of shields and weaponry, so I'm just going to mow through them, and that's a lot of beam array fire. There's a cute ability that the Mesh Weavers have. That's the Tholian Web Wall. And what that does is it just forms literally a wall in space that, again, the Tholians can fire through, but you cannot. So we have to just burn down the web wall there and smash. Plasma torpedoes, hoy. Okay, let's get a hold of this relic. This will be the third relic. As you can see, the real disadvantage to being a cruiser here, complete lack of maneuverability. So slow, but obviously you try and make up for that by the fact that you don't really need to maneuver that much, because as long as you're side on, you're doing maximum damage, and you generally have the hull and shield strength to be able to hold off pretty much anything that comes towards you. Or at least you hope that way. Generally, if something like a Borg Tactical Cube has you in its sights, you might have a bit of a problem. Anyway, this is the Tholian Recluse. It's the Tholian's second biggest ship, I believe, and they can be a real pain. I opened on subnucleonic beam there. I think I probably used that a little early. It's got me in a tractor beam and it's disabled my weapons. However, I have counters to both of those things. I have polarized hull for the tractor beam, and I have weapon batteries, which gets rid of any disable on my weapons. So long, Tholian Recluse, and nice try on that front. I believe emergency power to weapons would also have fixed having a disabled weapon, but yeah, Tholian Recluses can be a little bit of a pain. I think that I probably fired off subnucleonic beam a little bit early there. I'm just using scattering field here just because I'm gonna take out these Mesh Weavers incredibly quickly anyway, so it's not really going to be a huge deal, and yeah, they're going to die incredibly quickly. Oh, one of them's run away from my plasma torpedoes, I see. Oh, no. Unfortunately, it looked like it impacted a shield arc there, so it didn't get through. It didn't get through the thing. As I said, kinetic damage doesn't really help against shields. Anyway, this is going to be the last artifact, and then we will move on to the fourth mission. There are going to be 5 missions that I do, and they will complete both missions that I have. So overall, not doing too badly so far. So here we are moving on, and this time we're up against another different enemy. This time it's the Gorn. Now, in this game, the Gorn are allied with the Klingon Empire, so you'd imagine that they, well, I think allied's a strong word. I think that they're a subjugated race. But they should be following the will of the Klingon Empire, and these guys aren't. So I'm afraid we're just going to have to deal with them. Now, I am actually going to do this mission twice. The second time will be off camera. And the reason for that is that every mission that I've done so far gives me 20% towards the system patrol. However, the 5th mission, or the 5th system where there's a Romulan satellite, only gives us 15. So what I'm going to do is basically do this mission twice in order to wrap up the sector patrol, and then I'll show you the final system, or at least what I do in the final system. Because ironically, the mission that only gives us 15% completion probably takes the longest and is the most boring, so I'll show you exactly how I deal with it. Gorn's science vessels. Science vessels on the whole have very powerful shields but extremely weak hulls, so something like directed energy modulation is extremely potent against them. Oh, we've got a rare drop over there that I apparently missed. Never mind. Broadside everything. And there's one of the more nasty things that you'll see that Gorn do. That is an aceton assimilator. For those of you who remembered the Star Trek episode, oh god, I honestly can't remember what Next Generation episode it was, Certainly can't remember it by title, which is a bit irritating. But the Enterprise is essentially trapped by a load of aceton assimilators. They keep draining the ship's power level and converting it into radiation. And eventually they figure out how to do it, and Picard tells Wesley to get off the con because he's just better, and he flies the ship out on pretty much no engines. But what they do in this game, again, if you fire energy weapons at them, they absorb it and they chuck out a load of pretty damaging radiation. There is a ship later on in one of the STS which throws out a massive version of that, which is pretty crippling, but I'm not going to give away any spoilers on that for the moment. Anyway, last few Gorn ships here, they're all Vishat frigates. They don't really have a huge amount of firepower and they're pretty weak, so I'm just going to ruffle stomp through these, shooting myself with my own plasma torpedoes as usual. And there we go, that's the end of that. So I'll pick up the radiation scan, and then I'll do this mission again in order to complete the patrol, and then I'll show you exactly how I deal with the final mission. Okay, and here we are in Galorndon Core, and I'm just going to ignore this mission completely and head to the satellites. Yeah, pretty much. I'm just ignoring it. This mission takes way too long. You have to escort the Geki along this sort of line and they keep stopping and you have to destroy stuff. It's annoying, so I'm getting away from it. Those of you who are more familiar with Star Trek might recognise the Geki. They were from another episode with Geordi LaForge and Leah Brahms. That was the entity where the Enterprise accidentally killed one in order to protect itself, and they realised that the entity was pregnant and they performed a cesarean section with the phaser, and the entity then decided to suck the Enterprise's power systems dry. Another rather weird episode from Star Trek history, but the Romulan era seems to be the Geordi LaForge and Leah Brahms missions. Anyway, this final bit that I'm doing here is in response really to KTH77 asking for some help on dealing with Romulans. So far what we've seen is me dealing with Romulans when I've got a few allies with me. This time I'm going to have to deal with them alone. I'm just dealing with the Akamarians using diplomacy. High level diplomacy is awesome. And now I've got to take on a Mogai escort and a Dideridex battleship on my own, which is a little bit daunting. And you'll see the Romulans use some of their abilities. Actually, I've just triggered the autonomous regeneration there, so no matter what the Romulans do to me, they're not going to damage me while that's up. Anyway, Mogais are literally just very hard hitters, so you just have to hit them back harder. They can be a real pain because they do hit very hard. The Warbirds just used a horrible ability on me there called Viral Matrix. It shuts down system randomly. Fortunately, I have Engineering Team, which is the counter to it. Warbirds can be very irritating. They have a kind of 1-2-3 punch if you get too close. They will tractor beam you, viral matrix you, and then throw heavy plasma torpedoes at you, and not much can survive that. I kind of have the counters in terms of an anti-hold engineering team and just extra firepower in order to take them down, but you do have to be really careful around them, and I would just recommend always having engineering team and a polarized hull effect. Anyway, see you next time, guys.